Pre-Calc, this is Miss Jensen, and today we're talking about solving systems using matrices. So far we've talked about how we can solve them with substitution and elimination. Now we're going to do it with matrices. So we also talked about how to find the inverse of a matrix, and that's because that's what we use to solve matrix equations. We can do that also when we solve algebraic equations. So for example, the inverse of 9 is 1/9 because when you multiply those two together you get 1. Inverse of 4/5 is 5/4. You multiply it, you get 1. So those are multiplicative inverses. We're using that same idea with matrices, but I'm going to show you how we use inverses, or we can use inverses to solve algebraic equations. So we'll take a quick look at substitution elimination. So we want to make sure it's in standard form, especially if we use elimination. And if I want to create opposites, I can create opposite y's by multiplying by 3. So this is 3x minus 3y equals 3. And these will cross off. We end up with 5x equals 10. Okay? So normally we would divide both sides by 5. But another thing we can do is we can multiply by the inverse. Because 1/5 times 5 is 1x, 1/5 of 10 is 2. And that's really the idea that we use when we're solving with matrices. We multiply both sides by the inverse. If I were going to finish this one, I would plug in for x. So I'd plug in 2, subtract 2 from both sides, and get y equals 1. So our solution is 2, 1. Well, now we're going to solve the same problem using matrices. But first, this is kind of what a matrix equation looks like. We take the A matrix, so we put all the coefficients in A. So this is the coefficient matrix. This is the variable matrix. And this is the values that the equation is equal to. Values, equation is equal to. Yep, equal to. All right. So I'll show you an example in just a minute. But then what we do to solve it, once the matrix equation is set up, we multiply both sides by the inverse. Because whatever you do to the left, you have to do it to the right. But then just like 1/5 times 5 canceled out the coefficient on the left side, the inverse of A times A cancels that left side out. So the answer matrix you actually get by multiplying A to the -1 times B. So those are the directions. We start out by writing equation of the matrix, multiplying both sides by the inverse, and then you get your solutions. So we're going to do the same problem using matrices. So I would start out making sure that it's in standard form. Well, this is in standard form because it's x, y equals a number. Same here, x, y equals a number. So it's in standard form. So I'm going to start out by making my coefficient matrix. I'm going to call this A. So coefficient of x, coefficient of y. Coefficient of x, coefficient of y. Remember, there's implied ones there. We're going to set this not equal to, but we're technically multiplying it times the variable matrix. The variables we're using are x and y. And this is what the equation is equal to, 7 and 1. Okay, so if I look straight across, notice that this is 2, 3, 7. It should look the same way here. 2, 3, 7 from left to right. Second one is 1, -1, 1. 1, -1, 1. It doesn't matter which one is on top, which one is on bottom, but the equations should all line up. The matrix is called A, this is called B, So let me drag this down here. Just put this up a little bit. Okay, but then like I said before, we're going to take the inverse of both sides. So if we have A, and then this matrix X and B, you know, technically what we're doing is we're multiplying by the inverse. So this crosses off, and our answer matrix, I guess I'll call it XY. When we do A to the negative 1 times B in our calculator, it should come up to 1, which is what we got before. I'm just going to show you that on the calculator. All right, so ignore the background, but we're going to put in our calculator. So remember how we do that is we go to matrix and we edit A. And the A matrix was a two row, 2 column matrix. So I would hit enter, and I'd put in a 2 by 2. You can see I already entered this. Then I would go 2, enter, 3, enter, 1, enter, negative 1, enter. Okay? And that would be my A matrix. I'm going to go in and now I'm going to do B. So I'm going to go in and edit B. So my B matrix is 2 rows, 1 column. So I'd go 2, enter, 1, enter. And then my answer matrix was a 7 and a 1. So you can see I already had that in there, but that's how you would enter it regardless. I'm going to clear my matrix. I'm going to go second quit. So I'm going to clear the screen. And now I'm going to go A to the negative 1 times B. So the inverse of A, so I'm going to first get my matrix. I want it to say A, so I'm going to do name of A. I'm going to go to the negative 1 times B. A to the negative 1 times B. I hit enter, and what do you know? I get 2, 1. All right? We're going to go look at one that's not in standard form. So this one is not in standard form, so we need to put it in standard form first. So I want the x and the y on the same side, so I'm going to minus y from both sides. Here, x and y are in the left, but they're in the wrong spot, so I'm going to switch them around. But now it's in standard form. So I'm going to do my coefficient matrix, 3, negative 1, 6, negative 2. Going to do my variables. I'm just using x and y. And got 2 coefficients, or 2, pardon me, numbers that it's equal to. I'm going to put this in A, this in B, and this is what I'm going to type into my calculator. So now when you take a test on this, you are going to have to set up the matrix equation. You're not just going to put the answers down. We need to see you set up this matrix equation. But once you have it set up, you're just going to say xy equals A to the negative 1 times B. So you'll enter this into A, you'll enter this into B, you'll clear your screen, you'll go A to the negative 1 times B, and if you try that in your calculator, it is going to tell you it doesn't work, okay? So this one actually ends up being does not exist. There's no solution. We'll just put in no solution. There's no solution to this one, which, remember when we did it by hand and we did the determinants? Negative 6 minus negative 6 would give us a denominator of 0. So if we had figured out the determinant, first of all, we would say it doesn't exist. But it's also going to tell you on the calculator. When you do a to the negative 1 times b, you're going to get no solution. So you can, I did it as an empty symbol, but you can use, say no solution as well. Okay, one last thing, and that is 3 equations, 3 variables. Now this is very, very tedious to solve using substitution elimination, but it's pretty simple using matrices. So the first thing is we want to make sure all of them are in standard form. This is 3 equations, 3 variables. So this time again, we want them in order, x, y, z. So I'm going to go -2, 1, -4. Oh, I'm going to put my variables here first. My second one, notice this one does not have a z. So I'm going to put my 5x minus 2y, but I'm going to put 0z because I need to include that in my matrix. Now this one is missing a y, so I'm going to go 1x plus 0y minus 5z equals 17. But then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put the coefficients in a matrix. So I'm going to go down here first. -2, 1, -4. 5, -2, 0. 1, 0, -5. This has got 3 variables in it. And we're going to write in the last one what the equations are equal to. 4, 18, 17. All right? So really it's the same process. You make sure it's in standard form. You put the coefficients in the coefficient matrix, the answers or whatever, what it's equal to in the answer matrix, what it's equal to. And then we're going to get our answer by going a to the -1 times b. So I won't take time to put that in the calculator because you would just enter this under a 3 by 3, this under a 3 by 1. But then once you entered it, just like before when it said 2, 1 in a nice little column, this should say 2, -4, -3 and a nice little column as well. So sometimes if the answers are not so nice, like let's say it's 2 and 1/3, sometimes the matrix is going to go off the screen. It might do something like 2.33333333. You're just going to have to scroll over to find out what the next digit is. But that is pretty much it. If you need help, certainly ask your teacher.